Hey, I'm Joel Wanasek. I'm a pro mixer and the co-founder of NailTheMix.com, the coolest place to learn how to mix music on the internet. And today I'm going to break down one of my personal favorite mixes of all time. That is Underoath's Desperate Times, Desperate Measures. This is mixed by the legendary David Bendeth. Love this mix. It's phenomenal. I'm going to react, break it down. Let's go through this song and see what makes this mix so incredible. All right, a couple things to pay attention to. First off, before we get into specifics and break down individual elements of the mix, I want you to just pay attention to the raw, aggressive energy that this mix has. Like, it's just got a way of jumping out of the speakers, ripping your face off. It hits so hard. So just pay attention to how this feels, crank it up on a good system, and just experience this mix. Great mixing is about being able to find the right type of energy and emotion from a song. And the way that this is mixed, I think just brilliantly pulls that out of this song. Like, I get excited every time I listen to it. I don't even like this song. Like, it's not my cup of tea as like a listener, but I love the mix on this song so much that I love listening to this song, if that makes sense. I know that probably sounds weird. So let's get into specifics here. First thing I want you to pay attention to is the drum sound. Now, David Bendeth's drums always have sounded super unique. He's got his own thing. I love the way these drums are mixed, the way they sound. It's very, very compressed. So pay attention to just the kick and the snare drum, and then we'll break down some details. So the first thing that I hear when I listen to that kick and snare are mixed very, very loud and are driving the total, complete energy of this song. But not only that, is the sheer amount of absolute compression on these drums. I mean, they are slamming a compressor really, really hard. There's this like really cool, aggressive smacking. I don't want to say pumping because it's not pumping, but like this energy to the drums. The way it pushes out of the speakers, you know, he's really smashing a compressor there. I'm not sure. I've heard it's the ADR Complex. I could be wrong. I don't know. But it sounds aggressive. Like, the drums just smash you in the face. They're exciting to listen to. They've got a punch. And no one sample collection sounds like this. You know what I mean? Like, this is just totally unique to Bendeth's style. It's just awesome. So pay attention to that. Listen to how much compression and just compressed energy is in these drums. It's totally nuked, and I love it. They sound like freaking loaded cannons. So level-wise, the drums, the kick and the snare are the loudest thing in the mix. Okay, and what that does in this mix is it just drives this aggressive energy, because those drums are not only loud, but they're compressed, so they smack and they hit you. You feel them push and pull out of the speakers with a lot of energy and excitement. So that's something that I think really drives this mix, really makes it energetic, and really just basically takes the emotional impact of the song and just makes it exciting to listen to. Okay, so pay attention to the cymbals. Even the cymbals feel a little compressed to me. Maybe I'm wrong. I know this is mixed on an SSL 4000, so I can hear that board being pushed up to the absolute breaking point of distortion. You know, on those old consoles, there's like a sweet spot, you know, like if you push the mix bus and the channels really hard, you can kind of get them to break up a little bit, and then you can kind of pull it back. And a lot of people call that like the sweet spot. And it's just got a certain saturation characteristic it adds to the mix. It's just a really awesome sound. I mean, again, so many songs have been mixed on a 4000 like that. It's just the sound. You can just hear them just smashing that thing, and it sounds beautiful. So the cymbals are not as loud as the shells, and they feel like they're a little compressed. Like I said, they've got this beautiful harmonic distortion on them from the board. Toms are kind of down in the mix, you know, they're not like super loud, but again, they sound compressed, they sound aggressive, you know, when they jump out, they definitely catch your attention without being super loud. Now, something to pay attention to in the way that this is mixed is this is not an overly bright mix. Now, I did check this because sometimes like there's a little bit of roll off here on YouTube, but again, this is still not like a super bright mix. It's got a lot of like, you know, roll off to the top end. It could be from low pass filtering. It could be from the 4000 board breaking up. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that can contribute to that, but you've got a really nice, smooth, but open top end that isn't overly bright. And what's kind of cool is the guitars are kind of mixed like that. I don't want to say they're dull, but they're not super hyped, but they still sound super aggressive, which is actually pretty cool, because Usually when you hear something that's a little bit, I'll call it on like the warmer side of things, you know, like Nickelback, for example, is like what I would consider bright, like consider all the right reasons, right? Usually when I have something that's like on the warmer side, it isn't like as exciting to listen to, but the way that David Bendeth has brought the excitement out of this in this mix and the way that comes without making it super bright, that to me is like a real feat of mastery and mixing. Like I said, it has all of the energy a super bright mix has, but it's not a super bright mix. It's actually a pretty warm mix. Usually it's the opposite. So bravo. Now pay attention to the bottom end of the kick and the bass. So clearly the bottom end of the kick drum seems to be more prevalent than the bottom end of the bass guitar, meaning there's a lot of like sub push down there. It's not super low sub push. Maybe it's like 60-ish hertz, somewhere in there. I'm not feeling like a lot of 30 going down on my sub or anything. It's not pushing a ton of like ultra low subs. Okay, so the kick is below the bass, in my opinion, in the frequency spectrum. Bass guitar is actually kind of ducked in this mix in terms of volumes. Like it's a little bit back. It's more of a guitar drum vocal mix as opposed to like the bass guitar. And again, that's a different type of energy than, for example, having a massive bass in their low. Okay, now let's talk about guitars because we're about to get like the heaviest breakdown ever. It's so sick. Okay, listen to the guitar tone. Again, I love the top end. The guitars sound really warm and really smooth, but they're still aggressive and metal. Real nice, like 2 to 3K point on them. You know what I mean? The upper mid range on them is great. It's not like an 8K boost where you have like a super bright guitar. It's very much in like, I want to say slightly up on the vocal range. Check out this layering right here. This is sick. Oh my God, those extra guitar layers come in and they just rip your face off and I love it. I mean, this is like the only guitar up moment in the entire song where the guitars kind of come up like an extra 2 dB with those extra layers and it just hits so hard. Now, one thing I'll say about these guitars, pay attention to the frequency spectrum, right? Okay, so not only is like the top end, like I said, more in like that 3K range, guitars actually have a lot of body to them. You know what I mean? There's a lot of like 500, 800 and stuff. These aren't like super scooped, believe it or not. There's actually a lot of mid-range, even in the lower mids, like they're kind of woolly and thick. And I like that because most mixes in the genre are a little bit more scooped, but this has a little bit more mid-range to it. It creates a lot of energy and a lot of drive. It sounds a little bit different. It stands out sonically amongst other mixes in the genre in terms of like how it's positioned. And I think that's important when you're mixing because often when you're mixing, I always sit down and I listen to like, say, the top 40 and I'm like, what's everybody doing? How can I be a little bit different? How can I be competitive, but just give something an edge where it's going to stand out on that playlist, right? And I feel like having talked to David a couple of times, he's a really, really smart guy and he really puts a lot of thought and deep consideration into the mix decisions that he makes. So to me, all of these moves are very deliberate. They're very calculated. They're done in a way where it's like, a lot of thought went behind this type of sound and what they were trying to capture. I love that in a mix. I think that's just what makes a phenomenal piece of art. It's just like a lot of people putting a lot of effort and thought into like, how can we make something that sounds special? And I feel like that's what they've achieved here. Okay, so aside from the guitars and stuff like that, the bass, the drums, let's talk about vocals. Vocally, it's pretty warm sounding. Again, these aren't really bright sounding vocals. It's got a lot of mid-range to it. It sounds fantastic. It's kind of dry, meaning there's not like a ton of echo on it or a ton of reverb. It doesn't sound like it's in a cave. And I like the vocals are just like slightly, under the kick and snare. You know what I mean? It's like not vocals band. There's actually a band in this. So yeah, I mean, vocally, there's not much to say. It's very straightforward. It's mixed great. There's not like a ton of special effects or anything like that. It's just a banging, like energetic performance. What an awesome mix. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Love this mix. I think it really stands out for the time period and like other things that came out. It's got a totally unique sonic signature. absolutely phenomenal work. So let me know what you think of this mix in the comments below. Of course, I'm always dropping mixing stuff on my TikTok and Instagram, so make sure you check that out. Doing stuff 3 times a week over there. If you got any bands you want me to react to, drop them in the comments below. I got a long list of stuff to break down. And of course, if you want to learn how to mix this song, you can come do it here on nailthemix.com this month with David and learn directly for him. He's going to break it down and show us how he did it. And it's going to be really, really incredible. So thank you so much for watching and happy mixing.